Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you were able to enjoy lunch and check out some of the displays and publications upstairs. It's now time for our special partner speech, and I'd like to invite Andreas Vlasak, Vice President of Industrial Design Foresia, up onto the stage. 今日のスペシャルパートナースピーチをしてくださるのは、フォレシアのインダストリアルデザインの責任者、アンドレアス・ヴラサク氏です。The title is Connect, Disconnect. Mr. Vlasak.
Thank you. Thank you. So my task is now to keep you awake after lunch. Hope to be able to do that. The great thing I just mentioned at the side is right after lunch, everybody's already seated here to the same conference in France. They would now start having the same coffee, and it would take a while before filling the room. So I'm glad that this happens this way. I take a few minutes with you. What I really enjoyed this morning in both sessions was that we actually really, all of you speakers talked about the change in the industry rather than about just the next car. And now we, as a supplier to the industry, we have to be able to cope with that. So I hope that I'm able to show how we are trying to help this industry making this possible. One of the key things why I'm also standing here now, especially this year now in 2019, is that we are known for making the big interior parts, the seats, the instrument panels, everything that is physical around you, the decoration parts. The thing that you see in the center of the screen here, Foresia Larian Electronics, is a new business group that was created by the acquisition of Larian, a Japanese company here in Saitama, and a few other companies in China, in Europe, who are providing electronic knowledge, IVI systems, HMI systems, audio, digital audio abilities, and ADAS, so driving assistance products. Having all this now together allows us in Foresia not only to talk about the interior of the future and the user experience in the future, but to actually really do it, develop it, and industrialize it. We hope that we can show this. So that allows us, as I said, to really start with the user experience, to think about it, to define the experience, to design the experience, and then to industrialize it. One of the most important things is, it has been somehow touched on by a few of you in the morning. We start with the research, we build hypotheses, and then we are immediately testing them. We are not just developing the next car, we are starting to create a new fundamental baseline, quickly testing it, and then restarting to think and revalidating. And you might have seen upstairs, there's this wooden buck, I think that comes here, something similar to this one, where we're showing exactly this. This is not exactly styling what you're seeing here, it's actually pretty much the opposite of it, but that's how it starts. That's how you're quickly able to configure, to talk with our customers. We have you customers sitting with us in this bug, having discussions, defining, designing as we speak, and you see we're pretty fast in moving. And this allows us to define, first of all, what do we want to achieve in the future, and then start to really design it and give shape to it, give material to it. And this fundamental process to rethink, what is it actually what I want to do in interior? If it's a shared interior, if it's partly autonomous, level 3 or 4 or 5, what is it actually that is really changing? What do I want as a user to change? The first priority, second priority. These are the things that we are trying to cover through those exercises. And then eventually moving to something which is a complete design exercise and making sure that all these innovations are developed and packaged into an interior that should be seen through the filter of whatever the brand is, of any of the brands we have seen this morning or any other one. Talking about a user experience in a bubble, talking about material quality, you can be as digital as you want. It's about loving the product, having a desirable wanna-have product at the end. And the digitalization is only a part of it. We're a French company, we cannot hide it. Anytime you see a label there, there's a real piece of technology brick and innovation that is packaged into this design. So yes, there is a style to it, but first and foremost, it's a user experience with a meaningful combination of products and technologies. It's important that people can be in their personal sound bubble, their personal climate bubble, having a different experience if I'm sitting on one seat and the other person sitting on the seat next to me. Even low frequency sound of a bass can be personalized directly through the seat into the bone system. So with this, I made a direct jump into the way how we translate user understanding to product. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, if we take the big challenge, and it's difficult to go in a few minutes only through all that, if you really think about what moves the world at the moment, what are the big things that young people, old people, it doesn't matter. I agree with Jensen, who said before that the age doesn't really matter. That people are thinking about at the moment in terms of big things happening currently in the world. There might be negative ones, there might be positive ones, and this is not exactly a distribution of negative and positive, but of course it's environmental destruction. Of course it's the question about what's the purpose of being, of working, of creating a future, of defining a future. It's also the lack of references that many people, again, independent of age, lack of references that people are experiencing. And it's the fear of eventually just not having enough resources for having a healthy life. So it's very fundamental things. And if you look through this list, it doesn't really sound very automotive, hardly mobility related. But then if you think a little bit deeper with what we have at stake in this industry, moving people around, giving people a connected life, a desirable life, we can address maybe not everything, and we shouldn't have the ambition to address everything, but quite a lot of things can be addressed. We can address health. There's somewhere written the increased life expectancy. People are getting older, but it doesn't mean that with 120 years you're still actively driving a car as we do it today. So how can we enable people to make this, or as Simon showed in his earlier speech today, a young child that might be hospitalized, how can kids suddenly be mobile? So there's a lot of those questions that we can actually address. So when we not talk about the next car, but we talk about the next type of mobility, we know that it will be happening, with or without us, it will be happening, and for a very basic reason, because it's simply better to live than to die. It makes sense to take care about ourselves, about each one of us, and about everybody in the street. Again, I repeat, regardless of age, regardless of region in the world, and of any other social status or whatever you have to classify people. So we start with being connected, and it goes through being connected. A lot of the solutions of the future will come by the fact that we are connected, which doesn't mean that we have to become like those guys seem to be, victims of the connection. But we are connected because we want to belong to a group. And it's useful to belong to a group because we can be so much more efficient. That the human species has been able to do such a lot of things because we are connected. We can collaborate with thousands and millions of people that no other being can do. So that might make the big difference of the human being compared to the others. We are connected, and also not only the people, the objects are connected, so we are connected to belong to a stream. We are connected to a tribe. We are in smaller families or groups of friends connected to each other. but we also constantly, even if we're alone, having the need or the will to be connected to a larger community. That can be the work community, that can be, again, friends or family. That's the rest of the active world. But then there is did I skip one slide? I don't know. Then there's also the other world, being disconnected. Having the ability, not being forced to, but having the ability to decide, I don't want to be all the time connected. And this is where we're already starting to see other things that have been mentioned earlier this morning. You don't want to live only in a world full of OLED screens and being constantly bombarded by the rest of the world where you lose your identity. You want to be able to hold back to yourself, reflect, and then eventually be connected again. So a good example is actually this phenomenon, Li Ziji in China, who was able to disconnect, living away from the big cities, spending time in a very rural mode of life, but then communicating with the rest of the world, actually. She's one of the biggest YouTubers, and sharing this experience. So it's on and off, being able to decide, I do something else, I make an experience, and then I switch on and I'm re-communicating. So belonging to oneself becomes important. We are not only constantly wanting to be exposed, we would like, and we as everybody, we would like every now and then also to reflect ourselves, and that gives us purpose, gives us value for ourselves. So both worlds are existing. It's the same person, it's not different people. That's a very important thing. And you might have noticed I didn't talk about Chinese people rather than Japanese people, or French people rather than Portuguese people, or whatever. It, in that sense, almost doesn't matter. So, jumping a little bit to what I said before, with Faurecia having now acquired this whole capability in electronics, I'm just showing 2-3 images which are more focusing on that portion of how do we address the connectedness. And the connectedness can come through things like in this example, when you don't have a rear view mirror, you have a camera, and then you have a screen that shows you what happens behind. How can we readdress this whole topic? And this is a whole product line that needs, of course, the connectedness. It needs the electronics, but it has also a physical representation and needs to be physically integrated. That's where all these worlds are coming together. It's very important to have this as a part of a product portfolio. Or once you are on the screen, how can you, instead of having 3 different screens, how can you work on one single screen? And you see it, by the way, as well in this wooden bug. We have something similar to this one here on the screen. How can you use one single screen and zooming out, zooming in, showing more than one thing or showing only one thing, and having a very intuitive interaction with that? All these are parts of what I introduced before as being connected, and are directly showcasing this being connected case. I interrupted here. And then there's the other world where we are simply back to the desirability and saying it can be beautiful. It can be like this thing up there, which is a 3D printed part, which is illuminated and functioning behind another surface and creating some magic feel without necessarily having a function or playing with light. Or like here on the top left, where basically it's like on a fireplace. You have the warmth coming from something that is somehow a display more than anything else, but you can really provide something else with that. Here we are not necessarily connected. Here we are fairly disconnected. Yes, it's high tech, or it's not even high tech, it's technology, but it can very well live with us and give a certain ambience that we can choose according to the moment of the day. And with that, I get to a final quick video where you're trying to get both of those worlds together, because as I said, it's the same people, it's all of us. Where we start to be in a connected mode, we have everything we need. We have all the information that we need. We are having the possibility to see through the materials. Getting into the various positions of relating to each other in the vehicle, being able to, for example, together with the people in the back and in the front together to watch a movie on the same screen. And having, of course, as usual, all the connectivity that we have through the currently available devices. And then getting into next mode, which is the active driving, where everything is a little bit more focused, sort of a tunnel view. We are focusing on what we're directly seeing in front of us. The light is reducing to that. It's not opening up, but also physically the seat can close on myself and keep me in a certain direction with more lateral support. And then disconnecting. Then also being able to say, I still have technology, but it's only there to say, I keep you quiet. I will somehow watch on you. I'll make sure that I take care of you if anything happens. But you're disconnected for a moment. And you're only working with light, in this case with material quality and other aspects. So this is a very, very quick shot. I'm 7 seconds still in time. It's good. Very quick overview of how I can go from a very, very far away world of talking about the big stuff that preoccupies people in the world to what does it actually mean for users, the connectedness versus the disconnectedness, and how does this translate into something that is a car interior here and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. Would you like to stay up on the stage? And I'd like to invite Shiro Nakamura and Andreas Sampson on the stage for a short photo opportunity, please. That's okay.